Lady Jeanne Louise Campbell was not merely a socialite journalist or aristocrat. She was a liminal figure in the mythology of the 20th century, a living conduit between old-world power structures and emergent cultural revolutions. Her life, mapped across diplomacy, narrative control, seduction, and symbolic collision, intersects profoundly with the mythic undercurrents surrounding the Beatles and the legacy of the war-forged influence. Her aristocratic credentials were formidable, being the daughter of Ian Douglas Campbell, 11th Duke of Argyll, and Janet Gladys Aitken. She was also the granddaughter of Lord Beaverbrook, the formidable press baron and Minister of Aircraft Production under Churchill. Beaverbrook controlled both machinery and myth, shaping British survival during the Second World War, and crafting mass public perception with military precision. Jeanne, born to this dual lineage, wasn't simply steeped in privilege. She was embedded in the language of power, narrative manipulation, and symbolic authority. Jeanne's uncle, Neil Dermid Campbell, the 10th Duke of Argyll, was the last of the dukes to reside full-time in Inverary Castle and preside over vast Highland estates, including lands near the Mull of Kintyre. Among these holdings was High Park Farm, a rugged expanse carved from the granite and heather, used primarily for sheep grazing and clan stewardship. Though Jeanne herself did not live there, the land was part of her ancestral inheritance, both materially and mythically. It represented the Campbelltown Dominion, a place where the wind carried stories and the soil held secrets of tribal memory. In 1966, Paul McCartney purchased High Park Farm, acquiring it from holdings once associated with the Campbell estate. The convergence is uncanny. Jeanne, born of the Campbell line, had once stood as a symbolic gatekeeper to British aristocracy and post-war diplomacy. Paul, the working-class bard of Liverpool, never held title to the same soil. The land itself became a mirror, reflecting the transfer of cultural power from clan to chorus, from dukedom to pop dominion. Upon the 10th Duke of Argyll's death in 1949, High Park Farm was placed under trustees, entrusting a board of fiduciaries, bound by the strict terms of the Duke's trust deed, with its stewardship rather than allowing it to descend directly to his successor, while Ian Campbell, the 11th Duke, inherited every other entailed asset of the kingdom in full accordance with his title's rights. The farm itself remained in legal limbo until those trustees, aided by specialist solicitors, meticulously reviewed every covenant, negotiation, and secured clear title, ensuring the transaction honoured both the letter of the trust and the integrity of the Duke's estate. The purchaser was Charles Noel Beattie QC, the eminent advocate whose tax and estate duty treatise made him the go-to legal advisor for Scotland's most illustrious houses: the Campbells of Argyll, the Hamiltons of Lanarkshire, and the Gordons of Huntly. In the late 1950s, he inherited the ancestral Legmel estate in Rossshire, ushering in decades of Beattie family stewardship, and in 1989 he formalised its commercial side by becoming a director of Legmel Holidays Limited, cementing his role as both proprietor and custodian. Yet Beattie's civilian achievements only hint at his wartime exploits. As an officer in the Special Operations Executive, SOE, Britain's clandestine service founded in 1940 to ignite resistance through sabotage and espionage, he served in D Directorate, the SOE's forge, for forged documents, covert finance and legal cover. More than any ordinary agent, he underwrote escape lines in occupied France, oversaw the creation of diplomatic-style legends in Cairo to slip operatives past enemy checkpoints, and even extended his reach into the jungles of Southeast Asia. Embedded with Force 136, he coordinated clandestine supply drops and agent insertions that bolstered guerrilla networks across Burma and Malaya, crafting the legal and financial scaffolding those operations required. His personal file, number HS91097, at the National Archives charts a career that moved seamlessly from secret headquarters to Highland homesteads, binding together aristocratic legacies, covert service, and private land stewardship. The silver screen's depiction of clandestine courage, mostly memorable in Commander Scheer's From the Bridge on the River Kwai, mirrors the very world Charles Noel Beattie inhabited. In the film, Scheer steps out of the Burmese jungle under the aegis of Force 136, the SOE's Southeast Asia arm, charged with organising guerrilla warfare, arranging covert supply drops, and forging escape routes for Allied personnel. Just as Scheer moves through the tangled undergrowth under the forged identity, Beattie himself crafted the legal legends and the financial networks that kept real agents alive in Burma and Malaya. Lieutenant Colonel Sir Philip John Denton Toosey, the real-life inspiration for Commander Scheer's, cut his teeth not in uniform, but on Liverpool's trading floor. Apprenticed before the war to his uncle's cotton house, and later a ring trader at the Liverpool Cotton Exchange, Toosey learned to move vast shipments of American, Egyptian and Indian cotton under the keen eye of brokers and bankers. That very exchange would employ James Jim McCartney and his nephew Bert Danner through their roles at Hannay & Co., one of the city's premier cotton brokerage firms. Paul McCartney's choice of 23 Albemarle Street, Mayfair, London, as his registered London address for the purchase of Hyde Park Farm placed him literally steps away from the Argyll legacy he was buying into. A brisk walk, barely 300 metres, links Albemarle Street to Pall Mall, where at number 63 the 10th Duke of Argyll, Neil Campbell, once held court. In between at 55 and 58 Pall Mall sat M.A. Jacobs and Sons, the very solicitors who handled Beatle affairs. The street numbers themselves seem to tell a subtle story. McCartney at 23 Albemarle Street and Campbell at 63 on Pall Mall share the digit 3 in common. Pairing 6 and 3 yields 9, the same symbolic cipher that haunts Beatles' lore, Revolution 9, the 9th track on the White Album, and Paul's own fascination with cyclical numbers. It's as if the geometry of these addresses, 2 plus 3 and 6 plus 3, whispered a quiet nod to Liverpool's most famous son. McCartney's retreat to Hyde Park Farm in the wake of the Beatles' breakup was not just personal, it was mythic. He found solace in the same hills that once echoed with Campbell footsteps. The farm, with its leaky roof and sheep pens, became a sanctuary from fame, and later inspired the anthem Mull of Kintyre, the first single to sell over 2 million copies in Britain. Jeanne's ancestral land had become the muse of the new mythology. On February 11th, 1964, after the Beatles' explosive US debut, the British Embassy in Washington hosted the band at a surreal diplomatic gathering. There stood Jeanne Campbell, poised, symbolic, and prescient. She approached Paul McCartney, slipped her arm around him, and asked, "Which one are you?" "Roger," Paul replied. "Roger what?" she demanded. "Roger McClusky, the fifth," Paul answered while extricating himself from her grip. Both Jeanne and Paul existed within wartime legacy systems, one inheriting British industrial propaganda, the other serving as a vessel for post-war fame transmission. Their meeting at the embassy is not accidental, it's mythic design. Jeanne, schooled in the crafts of manipulation and secrecy, doesn't merely observe Beatlemania, she evokes it. She initiates its symbolic tension. Jeanne's romantic entanglements read like a geopolitical map. It was set during a time span of 12 months in 1963 and 1964. She slept with the three most famous political figures in the world of that time: Nikita Khrushchev, Fidel Castro, and President John F. Kennedy. The names on her list of other romantic entanglements included Randolph Churchill, Ian Fleming, Oswald Mosley, and Norman Mailer. Whether verified or mythologized, these relationships placed her at the center of ideological tension and symbolic proximity. Jeanne appears as a cipher, moving between camps, whispering truths, absorbing secrets, and refracting power through seduction and silence. Before Mailer and the other aforementioned, she had an affair as a 30-year-old woman with a 60-ish Henry Luce. Luce was said to be so besotted it almost destroyed his long marriage to his playwright wife, Claire Booth Luce. Her marriage to Norman Mailer, brief, tempestuous, and immortalized in An American Dream, revealed another facet. Jeanne wielded seduction as a tactical instrument, her provocations leaving even literary giants reeling. Gore Vidal once asked her why she married Mailer. Her reply, "Because I never slept with a Jew before." The line, provocative and cruel, reveals her mastery of shock and control. Lady Jeanne Campbell occupies a unique nexus between high society and the swirling conspiracies of November 1963. Writing for the Evening Standard, her grandfather, Lord Beaverbrook's newspaper, in a reporting on the JFK Kennedy's funeral, she famously wrote that Jackie Kennedy had given the American people the one thing they have always lacked: majesty. As one of the few journalists on the ground at Kennedy's funeral, her dispatches capturing the hushed grief in St. Matthew's Cathedral, she wasn't merely an observer, but an active participant in the intelligence networks probing the assassination. FBI memoranda from March 30th, 1965 reveal her close ties to figures like Jones Harris and Tom Bethel, the Oxford-trained reporter who would later join Jim Garrison in New Orleans. Department of Justice files confirm that British-influenced operations ran in tandem with her own inquiries, suggesting that her scoops and scandal introductions were as much deliberate signals to MI6 as they were headline grabbers. In this light, Lady Jeanne becomes less a bystander and more an intel volume, a walking archive whose salons and soirees carry secrets as potent as any classified dispatch. Her Georgetown home was more than a drawing room. It was a clandestine crossroads. In his memoirs, Confessions of a White House Ghostwriter, James C. Humes recounts that in October 1963, he watched President Kennedy go through his paces there, biblically, alongside Khrushchev and Castro, and all within a single year. These encounters underscore how, beneath her polished suavity, Jeanne Campbell orchestrated moments that bridged presidents and spy masters. This clandestine choreography of power and persuasion finds its mythic echo in Oliver Stone's film JFK, where shadowy backrooms and half-glimpsed dossiers drive Jim Garrison's crusade. In Stone's world, as in Campbell's reality, the line between reporter and agent blurs. Every whispered conversation and slipped envelope shaping public narrative, far beyond the printed page. Her grandfather, Lord Beaverbrook, grew incensed at Jeanne's high society exploits and, according to the Herald newspaper, threatened to cut off her allowance, a clear injunction against any loose commentary on American politics or intelligence operations. In obedience to his warning, Jeanne's published Washington dispatches steered away from espionage exposés, even as she hosted what insiders called private briefings with President Kennedy at her Georgetown home. Beyond those diplomatic anecdotes, she never publicly dissected US intelligence, preserving the discretion her grandfather demanded. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, coincided with one of the most ironic pop culture days in history. Phillies Records released Phil Spector's A Christmas Gift for You from Phillies Records, and the Beatles' second album, With the Beatles, was released in the UK. Capitol Records Canada released With the Beatles as Beatlemania with the Beatles in Canada 3 days after its UK release. This twisted juxtaposition, national grief paired with youthful exuberance, set the stage for a sudden hunger of hope and joy on the US airwaves, even as the funeral processions rolled through Dallas streets. Prior to that day, Capitol had been unconvinced that the Beatles would resonate with American listeners, issuing only token pressings of I Want to Hold Your Hand late in December 1963, and relegating other hits to minor labels. But in the weeks after Kennedy's death, the song's buoyant energy felt to many like an antidote to national mourning. When Capitol finally pressed thousands more copies and put the Beatles on The Ed Sullivan Show in February 1964, nearly 70 million viewers tuned in, ushering in Beatlemania amid a nation desperate for uplift. Some historians argue that, had it not been for that tragic November day, the Beatles' US breakthrough might have come through even quicker or longer, with a different trajectory. The tragedy, combined with the label's belated embrace, crystallized a perfect storm. The same young audience that mourned a fallen president now embraced 4 Liverpudlians, whose message of love and unity felt profoundly resonant. In this sense, the assassination didn't so much delay their invasion as transform its meaning and accelerate its impact. Beyond charts and contracts, cultural commentators noted deeper symmetry. Kennedy's Camelot and Beatlemania both spoke to a brief golden moment of optimism. As BBC analysts observe, just as JFK's youthful idealism thrilled America, the Beatles' fresh sound mirrored that vibrancy, helping soothe the nation in shock and steering its gaze towards a new musical horizon. Lady Jeanne Campbell, the daughter of Douglas Ian Campbell, 11th Duke of Argyll, and granddaughter of Lord Beaverbrook, became the leading British socialite and foreign correspondent for the Evening Standard during the 50s and 60s, died on June the 4th, 2007, at the age of 78. It was said that Jeanne received a large advance on her memoirs, but blew it on a villa in Greece, without ever writing the book. Latterly, she lived in a tiny walk-up flat in Greenwich Village, New York, and slept in her last surviving treasure, Napoleon's campaign bed. Quite fitting, some might say, for a woman who slept with so many renowned political leaders. If you liked this video and others on the channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Many thanks for watching,